Chukwuma Okeke hurriedly stepped out of the black G-Wagon just past midnight. In his excitement, his foot slipped on the smooth marble driveway and he nearly fell before quickly catching himself on the car door. He laughed softly under his breath. "See me, like a small boy," he muttered. But he couldn't help it. After 6 long weeks in London, he couldn't wait to see his wife, Addis. The humid Lagos air wrapping around him like an old friend who had forgotten how to hug gently. The Banana Island estate was quiet except for the low hum of the generator and the distant lap of the lagoon against the retaining wall. He had told no one, not his driver, not his PA, not even Addis, that the London summit had ended a full day early. The merger talks had collapsed in the final hour over valuation disputes he refused to bend on, and rather than spend another night in a Mayfair suite pretending calm, he booked the first available flight home. He wanted to surprise her. After 6 weeks apart, he imagined Addis' face lighting up, the way it used to when they were still building everything from scratch in Suralia. He carried only his leather overnight bag, leaving the rest of the luggage for the staff to collect tomorrow. The security gate slid open silently after he entered the 6-digit code. Inside the compound, the motion lights flicked on one by one, bathing the white marble driveway in soft gold. Chukwuma paused at the front door, key already in hand, and allowed himself a small smile. He pictured Addis curled on the cream sectional with a script or one of her fashion magazines, perhaps sipping the hibiscus tea she loved. He would slip in, drop the bag, and wrap his arms around her from behind before she could turn. Simple. Sweet. The kind of moment you replay years later at family gatherings and everyone sighs, "See. That's how love is supposed to feel." The door opened without a sound. The foyer smelled different. Not the familiar blend of Addis' vanilla diffuser and fresh lilies, but something sharper, almost metallic, mixed with a heavy oud cologne he recognized instantly. Emika's scent. His younger brother always over-applied, as though he needed the fragrance to announce him before he spoke. Chukwuma frowned but kept moving, shoes off, bare feet silent on the cool tiles. The living room was dim, only the blue glow from the television screen flickering across the walls. No sound came from the speakers, someone had muted it. He rounded the corner toward the staircase and froze. There, on the wide rug they had bought together in Marrakesh 2 years earlier, Addis lay with her head on Emika's chest. Her silk wrapper had slipped off one shoulder, his brother's hand rested possessively on the small of her back. They were laughing softly at something on the phone screen, Emika's phone, the same matte black model Chukwuma had gifted him last Christmas. The laughter died the instant they noticed him standing in the archway. For a heartbeat nobody moved. Addis sat up first, wrapper clutched to her chest. "Chukwuma." Her voice cracked on his name, small and startled, the way it sounded when she stubbed her toe in the dark. But this was no stubbed toe. Emika rose slowly, shirt half unbuttoned, eyes wide but not yet guilty, more like a boy caught sneaking extra stew from the pot. "Bro, you're back early." Chukwuma did not answer. He simply looked from one face to the other, letting the scene settle into his mind the way concrete settles into foundations, slow, irreversible. The coffee table held 2 wine glasses, one lipstick stained. A half-eaten plate of pounded yam and egusi sat beside an ashtray with 2 cigarette stubs. Emika smoked only when he was nervous or when he thought no one who mattered was watching. Addis stood, smoothing her wrapper with trembling hands. "Oui. I was going to tell you. It just..." "Tell me what?" His tone remained even, the same measured cadence he used in boardrooms when someone tried to lowball him. "That my wife and my brother have been keeping house in my absence." Emika stepped forward, palms raised. "It's not what it looks like, bro. We were just talking. Things got emotional. You've been gone so long." 6 weeks, Chukwuma said. "Not 6 years." Silence stretched. The wall clock ticked once, twice. Addis' eyes filled. "You don't understand. After the last miscarriage the doctor said we should wait, take time. You threw yourself into work even more. I felt alone here. Emeka was around. He listened. Chukwuma felt something shift inside his chest, not anger yet, but the slow, heavy slide of disbelief giving way to something colder. He had flown back thinking of reconciliation, of quiet nights rebuilding what distance had worn thin. Instead he had walked into a different life entirely. He turned toward the staircase. I need a shower. And space. Chukwuma, please. Adis reached for his arm. He did not flinch away, but he did not stop either. Don't. Upstairs the master bedroom looked almost untouched, except for the faint scent of Emeka's cologne on the pillows and a pair of unfamiliar leather sandals by the wardrobe. Chukwuma stood under the rainfall shower for a long time, letting hot water pound his shoulders until his skin stung. He kept seeing the same image, Adis' head on his brother's chest, the easy way they had laughed together. It was not the physical betrayal that cut deepest, though that hurt plenty. It was the comfort they had found in each other while he was out building the very empire meant to secure their future. When he finally emerged, towel around his waist, the house was silent again. He checked the guest wing. Emeka's usual room was empty, suitcase gone. Downstairs the living room was dark. Adis had left a note on the kitchen island, written in her neat, looping script. I'm at my sister's in Lekki. We need to talk properly when you're ready. I'm sorry. Truly. Chukwuma read it twice, then folded it and slipped it into his pocket. He poured himself a glass of water, drank slowly, and looked out at the lagoon glittering under the security lights. Somewhere in the distance a generator coughed and steadied itself. Life in Lagos never truly stopped, even when your own world tilted off its axis. He walked back to the living room, sat on the sectional where they had once watched World Cup matches and argued playfully over penalties, and stared at the muted television. The screen showed a late-night news recap, stock indices climbing, another tech acquisition announced. His conglomerate's logo flashed in the corner of the ticker. Chukwuma exhaled, long and slow. He had built an empire from nothing, started with one import license, one warehouse in Opopo, sleepless nights, and the stubborn belief that hard work could rewrite any story. Now the story needed rewriting again. But not tonight. Tonight he would sleep in the guest room. Tomorrow he would call his lawyer, not for divorce papers, not yet, but for clarity. He would call his mother too. Mama always knew when something was wrong before he said a word. And somewhere in the hours ahead, he would decide what pieces of this broken thing called family were worth salvaging. For now, though, he simply sat in the dark, listening to the lagoon breathe against the wall, and reminded himself of something his father used to say whenever life dealt a hard card. Son, when the storm comes, you don't curse the rain. You learn to dance under it. Chukwuma closed his eyes. The rain had arrived. Whether he wouldn't drown. Chukwuma woke before dawn to the sound of his phone vibrating against the marble nightstand. The guest room felt too large, too empty. He had chosen it deliberately, refusing to lie on sheets that still carried traces of someone else's presence. The caller ID showed Mama. He answered on the second ring. Chukwuma, my son. You are back. Her voice carried the familiar rasp of early morning prayers and too much palm oil in the stew the night before. Yes, Mama. Landed late. A pause. Mothers never needed long explanations. Something is not right. I felt it in my spirit last night. Talk to me. He rubbed his eyes, sat up against the headboard. Adis and Emeka. I came home and found them together. In our house. The line went quiet except for the soft cluck of her tongue against her teeth, a sound she made only when the word had disappointed her again. You. My God. How long? I don't know yet. Long enough for them to change the paintings, the locks on my own safe, the way the kitchen is arranged. Mama exhaled slowly. You are angry. I should be. But right now I just feel hollow. That is worse than anger, my son. Anger burns clean. Hollow eats from inside. She waited, then added, come to the village this weekend. Bring your head. We will talk properly. And Chukwuma, do not sign anything today. Not a check, not a document. Sleep on it. He promised he would come. After the call ended, he sat in the dark a while longer, watching the first streaks of light touch the lagoon. Then he rose, dressed in a plain white kaftan, and went downstairs. The kitchen still held evidence of last night, the lipstick-stained glass rinsed but not put away, the ashtray emptied into the bin but the faint smell lingering. Chukwuma brewed coffee the old way, stovetop percolator, no fancy machine, and carried the mug to his study. The room overlooked the water. He had designed it that way so he could think clearly. Today clarity felt like a luxury he couldn't afford. He opened his laptop and logged into the company's secure portal. Routine first, emails from London still demanding explanations for the collapse deal, messages from the CFO about cash flow projections, a flagged alert from internal audit. He clicked it. The alert concerned a series of wire transfers, small at first, then larger, routed through a shell account in Mauritius. The recipient's name, Victor Emeka Holdings. Emeka's middle name. Chukwuma's pulse quickened. He drilled down. The transfers began 18 months ago, shortly after Adi's second miscarriage. Each one was authorized under consultancy fees for a non-existent advisory firm. The total approached 1.2 billion Nigerian nairas. He leaned back, coffee forgotten. Emeka had always wanted in on the conglomerate, had asked, more than once, to head the new energy division. Chukwuma had refused, citing experience. You need to build your own thing first, he had said. Emeka had smiled, said he understood. Apparently he had chosen another route. Chukwuma pulled up the shareholder register next. His own stake, 62%. Adi's held 8% from the prenup gift he had made when they married. Emeka owned nothing directly, but if the transfers were disguised dividends or loans, and if Adi's had quietly assigned proxy rights. He dialed his lawyer, Barrister Tate, before the sun was fully up. Chucks, it's early. Oh. I need you here. Now. Bring the company documents and the marriage certificate file. Tate arrived within the hour, still in weekend polo and chinos. They sat at the long teak table. Chukwuma laid out what he had found. Tate scanned the screen, eyebrows climbing. This is embezzlement at minimum. Possibly fraud if they forged signatures. But the marriage angle complicates it. Community property laws in Lagos can be creative when high net worth is involved. Meaning if Adi's claims emotional distress or abandonment due to your travel schedule. A sympathetic judge might award her more than the prenup states. And if Emeka has been funneling funds, he could argue it was with her consent as co-owner. Chukwuma stared out at the water. So they planned to bleed the company slowly while I was chasing deals abroad. Possibly. Or it started as comfort and turned into opportunity. Tate hesitated. You want to press charges? Not yet. Chukwuma's voice was quiet. First I want the full picture. By mid-morning he had summoned the head of internal security, a former DSS officer named Obi. Obi listened without expression, then asked for 48 hours. I'll pull call logs, CCTV archives from the estate, bank trails. Discreetly. Chukwuma nodded. And one more thing. Find out where Emeka is staying. I need to speak with him. Face to face. Obi left. Chukwuma remained in the study, going through more records. Every discovery layered on the last, Emeka's name on vendor contracts that overcharged by 30%, Adi's listed as beneficiary on a suspiciously timed life insurance policy increase, joint dinners with board members Chukwuma had never met. The betrayal was not just personal, it was surgical. Around noon Adis texted. Please can we talk? I'm at the Oriental Hotel Cafe. I waited all morning. He stared at the message. Part of him wanted to delete it. Another part, the part raised by a mother who believed no wound healed without being aired, replied. 2:00. He arrived early, took a corner table overlooking the pool. Adiz appeared in a simple blue dress, no makeup, eyes red-rimmed. She sat without waiting for invitation. I'm not here to beg, she began. I just want you to hear me. He waited. When you left for London the last time, I cried every night for a week. Not because you were gone, because I felt invisible. You built this life for us, but you were never in it. Emeka came by to check on me after the doctor's appointment. One visit became two. Talking became more. I told myself it was temporary. Then it wasn't. And the money? Chukwuma asked. She looked down. He said it was for a side project. That you would never notice. I believed him because I wanted to believe we were building something too. Chukwuma felt the hollow place in his chest widen. You helped him steal from the company we both own. I didn't see it as stealing. I saw it as taking what was ours. He almost laughed, short, bitter. Ours. Until I came home early. She reached across the table. He did not move to meet her hand. I love you, Chukwuma. I ruined it. But I never stopped loving you. He studied her face, the same face he had promised forever to in a small church in Enugu 14 years ago. Love doesn't rewrite ledgers, he said softly. And it doesn't excuse betrayal. He stood. My lawyer will contact you. We'll handle the division quietly if you cooperate. If not, he let the sentence hang. Outside, the sun beat down on Victoria Island traffic. Chukwuma got into the G-Wagon and told the driver, take me to Ikeja. The family house. Emeka was waiting on the veranda when he arrived, jeans, white singlet, looking smaller than Chukwuma remembered. No bravado now. Bro. Don't call me that today, Chukwuma said. They sat on the old rotten chairs their father had loved. Emeka spoke first. I was jealous. Always was. You had the grades, the scholarships, the wife, the empire. I got the leftovers. So I took something. You took my trust. That's not a leftover. Emeka's eyes glistened. I'm sorry. For all of it. Chukwuma looked at the mango tree their mother had planted when they were boys. Sorry won't return the money. Or the years. I know. Silence settled between them, thick with the things brothers never say until it's almost too late. I won't destroy you, Chukwuma said finally. But you will return every kobo. You will resign from any shadow role you've created. And you will leave Lagos for a while. Go to Mama. Help her with the farm. Learn what real work feels like. Emeka nodded, throat-working. I accept. Chukwuma stood. Before he left he placed a hand on his brother's shoulder, brief, firm. We are still blood. But blood doesn't mean blind. Driving back across the third mainland bridge, the city lights beginning to sparkle, Chukwuma felt the first faint stirrings of something beyond the hollow. Not forgiveness, not yet. But perspective. The empire was bruised, not broken. The family was cracked, not shattered. And he was still standing. Chukwuma returned to Lagos the following afternoon, the familiar skyline rising from the haze as his car crossed the third mainland bridge. The city looked the same as it always had, busy, impatient, loud with ambition, but something inside him felt quieter now. The storm that had broken his life weeks earlier had not disappeared, but it had softened, like thunder moving farther into the distance. He had spent enough time in the village to breathe again, to remember who he was before the boardrooms and Billionaire deals, before the marriage that had slowly collapsed under secrets and silence. Lagos welcomed him back the way it always did, without sympathy, without pause, demanding motion. And Chukwuma was ready to move again. The weeks that followed were deliberate and controlled. The divorce papers were finalized in a discreet law office in Ikoyi, signed with the calm efficiency of two people who had already accepted the end long before the ink touched the page. Adiz looked smaller than he remembered, dressed neatly but carrying the quiet weight of regret. When it was done, she lingered at the door, as though searching for words strong enough to undo the past. None came. Chukwuma only nodded once, a silent acknowledgement that some chapters end not with anger, but with acceptance. Then she walked away, and the door closed softly behind her. Life reorganized itself with surprising speed. The Banana Island house changed first. Rooms were repainted, furniture replaced, the energy of the place slowly shifting from memory to possibility. The guest wing became a small private library filled with books he had collected but never opened. In the evenings he would sit there alone, the lights dim, the lagoon reflecting distant city lights beyond the window. The quiet no longer felt like loneliness. It felt like space, room enough for a man to rebuild himself. Work demanded attention as always. Chukwuma poured his focus into the new energy division of his conglomerate, overseeing projects personally and restructuring parts of the company to prevent the kind of internal weakness that had once slipped past his notice. Employees noticed the difference immediately. He was still calm, still measured, but there was a sharper awareness in him now. Nothing escaped his attention. Under his leadership, the company stabilized and then began to grow again, steady and disciplined, like a machine that had been carefully rebuilt after damage. It was nearly 3 months later when something unexpected shifted the rhythm of his life again. One Saturday afternoon he attended a modest charity fundraiser in Victoria Island, an event organized to support rural education projects across several eastern communities. Chukwuma rarely attended small gatherings like that anymore, but one of his younger executives had insisted he come, promising it would be brief. The hall was simple and warm, filled with teachers, volunteers, and community organizers rather than politicians or business elites. It was there, near a table stacked with donated books, that he noticed her. Her name was Nkechi. She stood speaking with a group of schoolchildren who had traveled from a village outside Owerri, her voice patient, her smile easy and genuine. She wore a simple navy dress and carried herself with a quiet confidence that did not depend on wealth or status. When someone introduced them, she greeted him without the exaggerated respect he had grown used to from strangers. Instead, she spoke to him the way one adult speaks to another, curious, thoughtful, and unafraid to disagree when their opinions differed. For the first time in months, Chukwuma found himself laughing during a conversation. Their paths crossed again the following week when he visited the foundation's small office to review one of the projects she had mentioned. What began as a brief meeting turned into a long discussion about education, community development, and the quiet work of rebuilding places that large corporations often overlooked. Nkechi was intelligent, determined, and refreshingly uninterested in his reputation. She asked questions not about his wealth, but about the lessons he had learned building his company from nothing. Weeks passed, and their conversations continued. Coffee meetings became dinners, and dinners stretched into long evenings where the city lights flickered outside restaurant windows while they spoke about family, loss, and the strange ways life forces people to begin again. When Chukwuma eventually told her about the collapse of his marriage, she listened without interruption, her expression calm and thoughtful. "Pain changes people," she said after a moment. "But sometimes it changes them in the right direction." That simple sentence stayed with him long after the conversation ended. Months later, the Banana Island house was alive again, though in a quieter, warmer way than before. Mama had come from the village for a visit, filling the kitchen with the smell of home cooking and her familiar laughter. Emeka had arrived as well, leaner now, carrying himself with a humility the city had never taught him. A few cousins and old friends gathered in the garden as soft high-life music drifted through the evening air. Chukwuma stood on the balcony overlooking the lagoon as the sun dipped low, painting the water in shades of gold and orange. Beside him stood Nkechi, leaning lightly against the railing as she watched the garden below. The breeze moved gently through the trees, carrying the scent of grilled fish and jollof rice from the garden. "You've built something beautiful here," she said quietly. Chukwuma looked out over the water, then back toward the house where laughter rose into the evening sky. "Yes," he said. Then he glanced at her, a calm smile forming. "But the most important things are still being built." For the first time in a long while, the future did not feel uncertain. It felt open. And Chukwuma, who had once believed his life had shattered beyond repair, realized that sometimes the strongest foundations are the ones rebuilt after everything falls apart. And that brings us to the end of this story. Thank you, family, for watching. If this story touched you or taught you something, please subscribe to the channel, like this video, and share your thoughts in the comments below. I'd love to hear what you think. See you in the next story.